Hello, my name is Rye and welcome back to the channel. I know it's been quite a while, but I'm really glad to be back and ready to get back into it. So before we start, of course, as usual, check out the description for some cool links to some cool Instagram pages and whatnot. Also, there should be a link to the gamecrafter.com where you can actually buy packs of Battle Cores. And so check that out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, whatever else, all the other YouTube things that YouTube likes. And let's go ahead and get on into it. So today we are going to be talking about Battle Cores Set 1's cards, specifically their monster cards. We're just going to be sitting down and going in order from the first to the last of Set 1's monster cards, and you can look forward to videos of the other card types as well. But yeah, so like I said, let's go ahead and jump into it since I'm excited to get into it. So the first card is Super Potato. Super Potato is a price 2, 1/2, being 1 power and 2 armor, nature plant, with the effect Startup. So, well, I'll just read it out before explaining. Startup. Gain points equal to the number of other active nature cards. Alright. First of all, Startup. Startup is an effect, well, I guess you can consider it a keyword. It's a keyword in the effects of Battle Cores cards. It's in a line of primarily 3, but there are technically more, being Startup, Ender, and Victory, all of which basically just say that the stuff that happens in the parentheses next to the word happen depending on what the word is. So in the case of Startup, this is in the case of Startup, that says that the stuff in the parentheses will happen when this card is placed on the field, or on the table, or board, or whatever you're playing on. So basically, whenever the monster is summoned. So in this case, it's saying Startup, so when this card is summoned, gain points equal to the number of other active nature cards. Let me go ahead and tell you. I'm sure this is obvious because this is probably true of any game, but especially in this one. Gaining extra of whatever the resources in the game is incredibly powerful, but this game is even more so than some, because it's pretty difficult to gain extra points. And so the few things that do give you extra points are incredibly powerful, and oftentimes if you have a well-built enough deck or a good enough strategy, you can go a mile just with 1 extra point. You can take it so much further. It's very powerful. And so to be able to gain points just for summoning this card, depending on how many other nature cards are in play, that's really powerful. And especially on a price 2 card, so it's quite cheap, and with that not bad body of a 1/2. And by the way, stats work very similarly in this to Magic the Gathering. So you can imagine a 1/2 as in Magic the Gathering terms of a 1/2. But yeah, it's not bad. And it leads to this card actually being in set 2, or in set 1, that is, one of the very best options as a quote-unquote power card that you'll get in, or for Tree of Vitality decks. Sorry, my mind went blank. So what Tree of Vitality does is it will basically power up your other nature monsters. It's a field card, so a support card that stays on the board after activating, and it gives a flat buff to... It basically will affect every card on the board, including the opponent, so it's not just buffing your cards. But it will give nature monsters +1/+1 and survival. What survival does is it's an effect that basically just says that if this card would be taken out, so if it's specifically if its armor would be reduced to 0, which would usually take out the card, instead it is left on 1 armor and this card loses survival. So it's like a once per summoned thing where each survival is like a one and done thing. And so with Tree of Vitality, and by the way, it's a price 1 card, so it's really easy to summon. With Tree of Vitality, that's both buffing up the stats of your Super Potato, making it more offensively and defensively threatening, as well as giving it survival, making it harder to deal with. And that, well, obviously that applies to every other nature card in the game. This is, you know, it's no different for something like Baby Potato or Flower Power or whatever, Leaf Swordsman. You know, they're all nature monsters. But this card is one of the biggest abusers that you have access to. And that is primarily because of its board flooding abilities. You can absolutely drop an entire hand, like an entire playset of Super Potato in a single turn, as long as you have enough nature monsters in play. Because let's say you have 2 other nature monsters in play and you have a handful of Super Potatoes. So you can run a maximum of 4 Super Potatoes per deck, because each main deck card can be run at its maximum of 4 copies, unless of course the ban list says otherwise, but Super Potato can be run at 4 copies. And so if you have 2 other nature monsters in play, and by the way, this effect counts the opponent's cards, so if they have nature monsters, this also gets you points, but you can't rely on that, so let's just go off of yours. So let's say you have 2 nature monsters in play, and you summon your Super Potato for 2 points. You suddenly will be gaining those 2 points back because of its startup effect. You summoned it, and you gain 1 point for every other nature monster in play. So there's 2 other nature monsters in play whenever it's summoned, so you gain 2 points back, which means you practically summon this thing for free. Well, you have 3 other Super Potatoes in your hand, and because you just practically summoned a nature monster, that means that every time you summon a Super Potato, you're gaining 1 additional point than you did last time. So next time you summon it, well, now you lost 2 and gained 3, so you're practically at +1 points. The third Super Potato, well, now you just gained an additional +2, so you're currently at +3 in total. And then with the 4th Super Potato, you just gained, let's see. So let's do the math together. So there are 2 nature monsters previously and 3 other Super Potatoes in play. So that's 5 points on top of everything else. Unless I did my math wrong and I seem like an idiot, which is fine. Basically the point is that you can gain a lot of points very quickly and quite easily, because something that a lot of the nature monsters have and somewhat focus on is searching. A lot of them can search out other nature monsters or other plant monsters or whatever. And since most of the nature monsters you'd be summoning are plant type as well, I'm pretty sure just about all of them are, if not all, then you're gaining a lot of points. And that is incredibly powerful because you can pay points to do whatever you want, whether it's summoning more monsters, activating more support cards, drawing more cards since you can pay 2 points to draw a card. Basically, there's no way that having more points, at least as of set 1, there's no way that having more points can be a bad thing for you. And so this is an incredibly powerful option. And if you have even a single Tree of Vitality set up, well, now all of those super potatoes are 2/3s with survival. So they're pretty difficult to deal with. Anyway, the point is that this is powerful. This is really good. And this is honestly a pretty incredible card. And the funny thing is I didn't even realize how incredible it was until I started really testing out the cards. I was like, wow, Super Potato is really strong. Anyway, the next card, Sim the Trog. Sim the Trog is a price 3, 2/3 dark alien with active. Active is an effect that basically just says that this card can attack the turn that it's summoned. Normally, monsters cannot attack on the turn that they're summoned. You can call it summoning sickness if you want to steal from Magic the Gathering even more, but basically just they can't attack the turn that they're summoned. Active says, well, actually you can. And so this is just a price 3, 2/3 that can attack immediately. And so it's more immediately threatening. That's its whole thing. That's the whole point of running it, is that it's splashable in any deck and that it's a decent body with active. As of set 1, it's one of the strongest bodies with active that you're going to get. Without setup, that is. Anyway, so there is a small issue with Sim the Trog, and that is, for one, it is a little pricey for what it's worth. You are pretty much only getting what's on the box with this. It doesn't really do anything else besides that, and it doesn't help that it's a dark type. The issue with the dark types in set 1 is that they're not super well supported. Dark, along with stuff like water and light, are types that just don't have a whole lot going for them in set 1. They gain support later on, many of them do, at least to some extent, but as of set 1, there's not a whole lot of incentive to run them over other cards, other stuff like nature or fire monsters that have a good amount of support, enough to actually make a whole deck around them. Its one saving grace typing wise is the fact that it's an alien monster. And as we'll soon go over, there is a card called Wuggletez that pretty much is just one of the best cards in the game, easily, and it searches out Sim the Trog because it is an alien, and so there's a bit of synergy there, but you're less so running Sim the Trog because it's an amazing card, and more so just because of its connection to Wuggletez and what it can do. So, don't get me wrong, Sim the Trog is definitely a good card. I really do think it's a good card, and it's worth running, in really any deck. Like, if you're hurting to find something to fill that random spot in your deck, there's a pretty good shot that it is Sim the Trog shaped. It's a very splashable card. But I don't really have anything else to say about it, so I'm going to move on. And next we have Beast of Hunger. Beast of Hunger is a price 2 3/1 plasma beast with speed. Okay, let's get into it. Speed is an effect that just says, as simply as I can possibly put it, speed gives your monster one additional attack on the battle, like during the battle phase. So speed is basically active, but better. Because on the first turn, it gives the same exact bonus of active, which is you get to attack once on the turn that's summoned. And then every turn after that, you gain 2 attacks, because you gain your normal attack and then you gain the attack from speed. So speed is very powerful. And I remember when I first made this card, I thought, wow, this is overpowered. This is easily the best card in the game. It's going to be run at 4 copies in every deck, and every game is just going to come down to spamming out Beast of Hunger. Because it's a low price card, it's only priced 2. It has 3 powered, which means it can take out most price 3 cards, and it's very strong, and with speed it's immediately threatening, and if it gets to turn 2, then it is able to just start dropping things like crazy, throwing around 3 damage whenever and wherever it wants, and so it's just really powerful. One issue. It has 1 armor. Only 1 armor. That and its typing of Plasma Beast, which are 2 of the least supported types in set 1, leads it to not be quite as amazing as it seems on the surface. Don't get me wrong, 2 points for 3 damage is a really good option. But because of that 1 armor and the lack of boosting options, really only having stuff like, well, it has of course the universal options, the stuff that's generic and can be used on anything, stuff like Ring of Power and Mask of the Forsaken, and stuff like Boulder Maker's Mask, and all that generic stuff that can be used on anything. But for specific support that specifically works on this card because of the qualities that it has, in this case primarily being its typing, it only really has subpar options like Thunderstorm, which is widely accepted to be the worst of the field cards, at least in set 1, but even out of set 1 it's still typically accepted to be the worst field card. And Beast, which is very unsupported, it's still to this day doesn't have a whole lot of support for it. It's definitely gained a lot more, like a ton more, but it's very limited in its support options, pretty much just being limited to Call of the Beast, which, just read Call of the Beast, it's nice, but it doesn't do a ton. It's just +1/+1 for 1 turn, and so it's not massive. And so all that together, and especially with the massive threat that it poses, because you summon it and immediately your eyes are on the Beast of Hunger. Your eyes are looking and being like, oh, well, holy crap, that is 2 points, 3 damage, slamming into my face or into one of my monsters, taking it out right then and there. That's a huge threat, I need to deal with it. And it helps that it's really easy to deal with it. And so the fact that it is both threatening, so the opponent is very, very aware of it when it actually enters the battlefield, and it's so easy to deal with because it's only 1 armor. It has no protection effects or anything like that, you just kill it. And it's really hard to buff up and support because said support options are really limited, and it's really only limited to the generic stuff, which the generic stuff is, well, it's not as good on purpose because it's generic. That's why you want specific support, because then it can afford to be more powerful buffs because it's specific to only certain cards. Whereas Ring of Power and Mask of the Forsaken can literally be run on anything. And why would you run it? Why would you run it on this card specifically? when it's not likely to last till the second turn. That's another thing. It practically just has active because of how easy it is to deal with, and so it doesn't usually get to that second turn. All this is to say is that Beast of Hunger is a good card. It's very good. It's powerful, it's quick, it's not that expensive, and it's really good at what it's trying to do. The only issue is that you're limited pretty heavily in the amount of value that you're going to be allowed to get out of it. Now, does that mean that it's a card that you should suddenly just ignore and act like it doesn't exist and whatever? I wouldn't say so. I would say that it is worth running, just not relying on completely. Beast of Hunger is a lot like Sim the Trog. It's a really good card that can just fit in any strategy, and if you have an open slot in your deck, there's a pretty good likelihood that it's Beast of Hunger shaped, and you can fit it in there. But it's not something that you'll probably be able to just lean your entire deck on. I guess that's about all I have to say about it. I don't want to sit here and rag on Beast of Hunger, because it really is a good card. I really do like it, and it is good. It's just not crazy good. At least not like I thought it was at first when I made it, and I was like, holy crap, this is overpowered. The next card is Leaf Swordsman. Leaf Swordsman is a price 1 nature plant 2/1. So 2 power, 1 armor. With the effect Victory, search 1 plant card. Victory is another one of those keywords that I was talking about before with Startup and Ender. Victory, what Victory is saying, basically, its condition for activating the stuff in the parentheses is whenever this card takes out another card in battle. That's what Victory affects. That's how they activate, is this card attacks something else and takes it out. So Leaf Swordsman is a very good card, mainly just because it's price 1, it has 2 power, it has a pretty good victory effect, and most importantly of all, it is a nature plant type. Yep, nature plant type. If the biggest issues for Sim the Trog and Beast of Hunger is non-specific support, well, that's the exact reason why this card succeeds, is because of specific support, primarily being Tree of Vitality, which I already discussed. Price 1, field card, +1/+1 boost to the stats, giving survival, boosting survivability, obviously. With just a single Tree of Vitality in play, Leaf Swordsman becomes a price 1 3/1 with a good victory effect, which allows you to search for your other important cards, one of which being Super Potato, and gains a lot more survivability because of the extra point of armor and the effect survival, making it a lot harder to deal with, meaning it's actually pretty likely to survive until the next turn, so it can actually attack using that good attack stat, and actually be able to pull off that victory effect and get you value. Because that's the main difference, is that it has what is needed to gain the survivability enough to make up for its deficiencies. Yes, it's frail. Yes, it's easy to take out, and it's slow because it can't immediately attack. And so you're not immediately able to start swinging and trying to get that victory effect. But everything else about the card is really good. It has high stats for a price 1, it has a good effect for a high statted price 1 card, and it has really good typings for set 1. This is a good card, and it is a staple in pretty much every Tree of Vitality deck. And it really helps that it does have 2 power, because literally, like, every other nature monster that you're likely to be running does not have more than 1 power. Initially on the card, it's like 1 or less, so it's just less than 2. And so the fact that this card gives you a 2 power option actually matters. But anyway, let's get into the next card. The next card is Swamp Serpent. Swamp Serpent is a price 3, 2/2 water beast with the effect Victory, do 2 burn. Victory, we already discussed Victory, so when this card takes out something else, you get to do 2 burn. 2 burn, well, burn specifically is another keyword. It's what burn means is just effect damage. It's damage to the opponent that is done by card effect. So in this case, the Victory effect. That's all burn is. It's effect damage. And so what this is basically saying is, if you attack something and take it out, then you're also getting the ability, or gaining the ability to attack, to like deal 2 damage to the opponent, which is not insignificant. It's actually really good. Really, the main issue with this card is the high price for its stats, and in part because of those lower stats for the price, making it easier to take out, so you're less likely to even get to attack with it, let alone activate the Victory effect. And that typing. Oh, that typing. Water and Beast. 2 of some of the least supported typings in set 1. Oh, how good you would be if you were a fire monster. Sadly, Swamp Serpent is not a super amazing card, but it does have one very specific niche, and it shares this niche with only one other set 1 card, and that is that it is, like I said, one of only 2 set 1 cards that is able to summon the legend card Slither King. Thematically, it makes the most sense to use this card because Swamp Serpent is a snake and Slither King is a snake, but another card called Blubbertooth is technically usable because it fits the criteria needed to be able to summon the card. It fits those requirements. So Slither King is a legend card. It is a dark beast type, 4/5. So 4/5 being the body, 4 power, 5 armor, which is really good stats. And what you need to summon it is 1 active, price 2 or higher, water or beast type, or a water or dark beast type monster. So if you have a single price 2 or higher water or dark beast type on the board, then you can discard them to summon out Slither King. What do you get with Slither King? Well, besides for the big body, the 4/5 body, you also get True Strike. True Strike functions exactly the same way as Magic the Gathering Trample, unless I'm horribly misunderstanding Trample. But True Strike basically what it means is whenever you... So, normally in battle, whenever you attack the opponent, you're comparing your power to their armor. You're basically subtracting your power from their armor to see if it reaches 0 or below, because if it does, then you take it out and you discard it. What Trample says is, whenever you do that subtraction, whatever's left over is done in burn damage to the opponent. So, let's say, for example, your 4 power Slither King is attacking a Super Potato, which only has 2 armor. So 4 minus 2, or well, technically 2 minus 4 is 2. So that means that you would not only take out the Super Potato, but then you would continue on to deal 2 damage to the opponent directly because that's what was left over. That's what was not taken up by attacking the card's armor. Basically, its health. And so, that's basically what True Strike does, and so in a lot of cases, Slither King is just a straight update or upgrade from Swamp Serpent. The typing doesn't get any better, because yes, it is different, it is a dark beast instead of a water beast, but it's okay because both water and dark are pretty equally meh. Neither of them are really supported very well in set 1 competitively, so it's fine. You're basically not losing anything typing-wise, and you keep the beast type, and your stats go from 2-2 to a 4-5, and your effect goes from that victory effect of dealing 2 burn to True Strike, which, like I said, in a lot of cases functionally functions the same exact way. You're getting a lot of the same benefit where, oh, you take out a card, but you continue to deal, but you get to also deal damage to the opponent. It pretty much functions the same way. And so it's a really fair trade. But yeah, that's Swamp Serpent's one niche, it is one of only 2 cards that can summon Slither King. And on top of that, it is arguably, well, if you're ever running Swamp Serpent, you might as well run Slither King in the Legend deck. I'll just put it like that. Anyway, on to the next card. The next card is Baby Potato. Baby Potato is a price 1, 0/1 nature plant type with the effect Ender, search 1 nature or item card. Baby Potato, for the same exact reasons as Leaf Swordsman, is a really good card, primarily just because of the low price and that typing. The stats are not super important, the stats are fine, and under a Tree of Vitality, they're actually quite good. But the typing is really where it's at because you get Tree of Vitality. And also, Ender. We finally get to the third of the 3 main keywords that we need to learn. What Ender means is that these effects that are in the parentheses activate whenever this card is discarded. So in this case, when this card is discarded, you get to search 1 nature or item card from your deck and put it into your hand. That's really cool. You can either search nature cards like Super Potato or whatever other nature card that you want, like Leaf Swordsman or something, or you get to search an item card. And such great item card options being such like Ring of Power, or Mask of the Forsaken, or whatever you want to search out. There aren't that many options in set 1, but those are probably the 2 best. Primarily Ring of Power. But yeah, Baby Potato is just another staple of these Tree of Vitality decks, just simply because it's a good nature monster that searches stuff. I don't have a whole lot else to say about Baby Potato. It is able to summon, it is the best option for summoning the legend card Razor Tater, which is a pretty good card for these Tree of Vitality decks, but other than that, it doesn't really do a whole lot else besides what it says on the box. But yeah. So I'd definitely consider running it in any Tree of Vitality deck that you're running in set 1. Next is Star Child. Alright, Star Child. Star Child is a price 2, 2/1 fire elemental with the effect active. Alright. So unlike Sim the Trog, which also has active, this is a cheaper card. It's price 2. So it's easier to summon for the same benefit when it comes to effect, as well as offensive capability, because they both have 2 power. The main downside is the really low armor, but that's okay. It doesn't really need to have high armor, because it's a fire monster. Fire monsters function very well with the card Star of Ruin. Star of Ruin is a price 1 field card that gives your fire monsters +1 power, and it reduces their price by 1. By the way, each of these stacks, so for every copy of Star of Ruin you have in play, which you can have at a maximum of 4, they're gaining an additional power for each, as well as their price is being reduced by 1 for each. And so it's okay that this card doesn't have the highest armor, because it's not really there to stay for long, because you're just trying to flood the board with boosted fire monsters, with, you know, being boosted by Star of Ruin and probably even stuff like Ring of Power, and you're just trying to break the opponent down and beat them. But yeah, Star Child is definitely a really good card in Star of Ruin decks, and similar to Beast of Hunger, it can be slot into any deck, but really, if you're not running specifically Star of Ruin, then I don't see why you'd be running this over a Beast of Hunger, since Beast of Hunger is just definitively better. Like, if you're not leaning into the fire typing. And elemental typing is similar, where it's practically unimportant. It doesn't matter, it's unimportant text, because set 1 does not have any support for elementals. Mini set 1 and set 2 add more, but set 1 just doesn't really have anything for elementals. But yeah, Star Child is a good card. The next one is Blubbertooth. Blubbertooth is a price 3, 2/4 water beast type monster. Blubbertooth is the other card that can technically summon Slither King. Does it thematically make as much sense? No, because this looks more like sort of like a seal of some kind. Whereas the other one's literally a snake for a bigger snake. But you could argue this is a better option because of the significantly higher stats. Being a 2/4, it is a no effect monster. Every set has at least one no effect monster, and this is set 1's. It is a no effect monster, but because of that, it has, like I said, higher stats. And so, do you want a 2/2 body with a victory effect, or do you want no effect but a 2/4 body? It's really up to you which one you prefer. I think I personally prefer Blubbertooth a little bit over it, but that's just me. Swamp Serpent is also perfectly fine, especially if you're just running it to discard for Slither King. But yeah, Blubbertooth it's not a bad card. It's just kind of like it's just a whatever card. It doesn't really do anything but what it says on the box, and because both those typings are so unsupported, it doesn't really have anything, like any cool card synergies outside of something like Call of the Beast that will just give it +1/+1 for a turn. But you know, it's not bad. I definitely consider it if you have nothing better, but you know, that's just my opinion. It is kind of cool because it does actually survive an unboosted Beast of Hunger, which most price 3s don't. The other main price 3 is Sim the Trog, which has 3 armor, which means it perfectly gets taken out. But all the Beast of Hunger needs is a single, Ring of Power, and suddenly, well, now I take you out. But, you know, it's whatever. Blubbertooth is not bad. The next one is a very, very important card, and that is Wuggletez. You heard me mention Wuggletez back when I was talking about some of the Trog, but now I'm actually going to get into it. Okay, Wuggletez is a price 1, 0/1 light alien with the effect Startup. So when this card is summoned, search one alien from deck or ground zone. Yeah, that's really good. It's a price 1 card that, sure, it doesn't have anything good stats-wise, and outside of the alien typing, just simply because alien is a good type because of Woggletez, it basically has worthless typings in set 1, because light and outside of Woggletez, alien are pretty unsupported. But that effect is so strong in tandem with the low price. It is actually the reason why the Alien Engine exists at all. What is the Alien Engine? The Alien Engine is just simply where you draw, like, where you have a Woggletez in hand. I'm going to explain the whole set 1 Alien Engine right now. You have a Woggletez in hand, you pay 1 point to summon it, you use its starter effect to search the second copy of Woggletez, summon it, and then discard them both to summon your legend card, Matter Tracer. Matter Tracer just requires 2 active alien cards, which 2 copies of Woggletez fulfill, is a Plasma Alien type 4/3 with the effects Active, Survival, and True Strike, all of which we've already gone over. So Active and True Strike make it more offensively potent, more immediately offensively potent with Active, and more able to just deal a ton of damage with True Strike, and Survival makes it harder to deal with. And 4/3 is a really good body. That's a really good body to have all that on. And you can get that out for 2 points really easily. That's the Alien Engine. That's what it does. This is the reason why Simnitrov's type is not the worst thing ever, because it can be searched by Woggletez, and it can be recovered from the ground zone by Woggletez, because Woggletez can search from the ground zone. The ground zone, by the way, is the discard pile. That's where your used cards go. And so being able to reuse already used cards is really, really good. But yeah, that's Woggletez. I'm sure I will have more to say about it in the future, but for right now, just know this is a phenomenal card, and I would advise running it in any deck, because it is just that good of a card. And so never be sad when seeing it in a pack. The next card is Night Diver. Night Diver is a price 4, 3/3 Air Beast type monster with the effect Victory. Do 2 burn to 1 target. This is very similar to Swamp Serpent. It's pretty much just, it's basically just the price 4 version of Swamp Serpent. It is a price 4 card, so 1 point higher. It has, support-wise, practically the same typing, because air is also not super supported. It is more supported than water in set 1, but it's not super well supported in set 1. But just you wait, mini set 1 comes out, this card is going to get really important, but as of right now, as of just set 1, it's not anything super special. But yeah, so its typing is not super important right now, just like Swamp Serpent, and it has 1 point higher in armor and power than Swamp Serpent, being a 3/3 instead of a 2/2, and it has a very similar victory effect to doing burn damage, literally doing the same amount of burn damage. The only difference is that you get to choose what the target is. So that means that you can attack the opponent's super potatoes instead of just hitting them directly. So it's a more versatile effect that actually allows you to use it as targeted destruction, because you could potentially attack a monster and then use its victory effect, to target another one and take out 2 cards in a single battle phase with this thing. So it's pretty good. Really, its main drawback is the lack of specific support. It's not super impressive stats for a price 4, and it's high price. It is a price 4 monster. It's hard to summon. You have to wait until either turn 4 or turn 3 with a or turn 3 with a 1-up, which is not guaranteed, so basically turn 4. So it's not a phenomenal card, but it's not bad, and honestly I really like the card, so I'm glad it does get better later on. The next card is Astropod. Alright, Astropod is a price 2, 1/2 water alien type monster with the effect Startup. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck and rearrange them in any order. So, price 2, 1/2, good but average stats. Water alien typing, only slightly better than Water Beast. And actually a really good startup effect of being able to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and rearrange them in any order. So you kind of just get to decide what your next 3 draws are, or at least what order they are going to be, and arguably more importantly than that is the knowledge of what the next few turns are going to hold. Astropod is actually, though unassuming on the surface, is actually a really good card. And it kind of surprised me because when I first started really testing out this game, I kind of just ignored it. I kind of just left it off to the side and was whatever about it. But the more I started looking into things, I realized this is a really good card. But you may think it's so good, but it's practically, after you summon it, just a price 2, 1/2 with no effect. Because after you summon it, it does its little thing and then it's done. It doesn't do anything else after it's summoned. It's practically just a price 2, 1/2. That's all it does, outside of the effect. It doesn't have any amazing typings, it doesn't have anything special, it's just, you summon it, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, which doesn't even do anything directly threatening to the opponent, or have any great swings and advantage, or any powerful searching like Wogeltez or anything. It just, you summon it and you look at the top 3 cards of your deck and then place them back and you're done. It's incredibly unassuming, and that is actually its biggest strength. And that is the reason why I say Astropod is a really, really good card, surprisingly. And I say Beast of Hunger is a good card, but not as good as you think. Because Beast of Hunger is really threatening. It's really clear what it does, and it's very obvious with its power and its strength. And so it's immediately a target. The opponent immediately wants to take it out before you get to start throwing around 2 attacks on a 3 power 2 price monster. Before you really start being able to gain advantage with it. But what Astropod does is far more subtle. It's just a 1/2. It's nothing special. It just let me look at the top 3 cards of my deck, and then I just kind of sit there and it does whatever, It's not, the point is that it is so unassuming. The opponent does not see Astropod as a huge threat. They do not see Astropod as doing anything crazy and being something they immediately need to target down and get rid of. Astropod is not a card that they see as, oh my gosh, I need to kill that now, before the opponent gets a single moment to use it. And that's its true strength, because that means this little 1/2, this practically, once it's summoned, no effect 1/2, can just sit there and do 1 damage every turn. Just do 1 measly little damage, and because it has 2 armor, it can actually survive a hit from things that only have 1 power. You just do little bits of damage, little bits of incremental damage, and because it has 2 armor, it's a little bit harder to take out than some of these 1 armor cards, and so the opponent may target down these 1 armor cards instead of the 2 armor Astropod, because they're not super likely to be able to take it out, and all that stuff. But because it's unassuming and it doesn't do a whole ton, it's nothing flashy, you actually end up getting a ton of value out of it. And that's why I honestly think that Astropod's a really good card and it's worth running. And it's an alien type, which means you can search it out. You can search it out with Wogeltez really easily and continue to get value out of it. Honestly, sometimes I forget that it's an alien monster, but it is, and and you can use it as an alien monster. You can use it as a standalone monster perfectly fine, but you can use it for its alien monster typing. But yeah, Astropod is a surprisingly really good card. And the next card is Pepage. Pepage is a price 2, 1/1 fire plant monster with active and speed. Okay. This is arguably a better fire monster than Starchild, at least as of set 1. It is definitively better. I did not intentionally make this definitively better, it just kind of ended up happening. And so I'm sorry, Starchild, but this is a definitively better card. Why? It has the same price and lower stats, and they both have active, even though this one has speed, but because of the lower stats, it doesn't do any more damage. And it's still a fire monster. What's the big deal? Why is it so different? Let me tell you. Yes, it's the same price and it's only 1/1. But it has the same defensive capabilities of only having 1 armor, so the price and the armor are the same. Its elemental typing is fire, but its descriptive typing is plant. Its secondary typing is plant. That's a way better typing to have. Like, significantly better typing to have than Elemental. Because Elemental literally doesn't do anything in set 1. It has no reason for existing when it comes to actually, like, gaining advantage from having the typing. Whereas Pepage is a plant. That means it can be buffed by flower power. That means it can be searched out by stuff like Leaf Swordsman. That means it can basically do all that jazz, which means it can actually, to some extent, as a non-nature monster, function as burst damage and fairly easily boosted damage in Tree of Vitality decks. And let's talk about a simple card called Ring of Power. Ring of Power is an item card that I mentioned before, but I'm actually going to go into it a little bit more now. Ring of Power is a price 0 item card, which means it can be equipped to monsters directly to give them whatever effect, and it gives the equipped monster +1/+0. So basically, an additional power. The difference between Pepage and Starchild when equipped with this card is actually pretty big. Yes, they both only gain 1 power, but the difference is that Pepage functionally gets an additional damage out of it. Well, let's look at Starchild. Starchild gets boosted up to 3 power. And so when it attacks 1 target for 3 damage. That's all that you do with it. That's all you get. What Pepage gets is Pepage gets 1 additional power, so it jumps up to 2 power. But because it gets to attack twice, and immediately because it has active and speed, because it gets to attack twice, that means it's attacking 2 separate times, each for 2 damage, so a combined total of 4 damage. And so yes, they're both equipped with the same card, yes, they have the same initial damage output, but Pepage, for every boost it gets, is outclassing Starchild. It's basically as if all of its offensive boosts are being doubled because it gets to attack twice. And another massive benefit of being able to attack twice is that this card is able to target 2 different targets. Starchild is only ever going to be able to attack one thing once. Pepage is able to attack one thing once for its full power, or split its power between 2 different cards if that's all if the lesser power is all it needs to take it out. Or it can attack 1 card, taking it out and leaving the opponent open to be attacked directly, whereas Starchild would only be able to take out the 1 card. Basically, Pepage has a better typing and though technically worse stats, it comes out to being the same thing, with a better effect being able to split up its attacks so it becomes more versatile, more useful in more situations, and it gets more value out of pouring resources into boosting it, as well as being easier to boost. Because it both gains the Star Child's same boost for being a fire monster from Star of Ruin, but it also gets boosted from Flower Power, which is a staple of Tree of Vitality decks, which is one of the other biggest decks in the in Set 1's metagame. Meaning that Pepage can function in two of the best strategies for Set 1. And it can function very well. And it's also one of the best targets for Ring of Power because of how much value it gets out of it. Basically, Pepage is just really good. It's very splashable, very powerful, and it's really, really good. Anyway, as I'm sure you can tell, this has been going on for far long enough, and I'm thirsty, and my throat is dry. So, sorry to say it, but I'm gonna have to cut this into parts. So this is just part 1, as the title probably said. And I guess I better go ahead and close it off. I hope that you all have a blessed day, and fare thee well.